This is a Film Stories original podcast.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
We made this.
Welcome back, everybody, to the X-Cast. The truth is in here. I'm your host for this episode, Carl Sweeney, and welcome back to I Want to Believe Minute, which is the series we're doing where we go through the second X-Files movie 1 minute at a time. And we have reached minute 40 with this episode, and it starts at the 39-minute mark as dogs are barking at the compound as one of the abductors opens the gate, and it runs through to 39 minutes 59 seconds as the abducted woman is being moved. And joining me on this one are two of my best podcasting buddies who I've not spoken to for a little while, which is why we thought we'd do a run of episodes. It's Kurt North and Sarah Blair. Hello, both.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
So, Kurt, how is I Want to Believe Minute going for you?
I'd like to say well, but at the moment, not well. Behind the scenes, I've been trying to record episodes and not succeeding. So, not well at all, mate, if I'm being honest. But yeah. Yeah, so we'll see. But all the plans are in place and everything is set up. It's just every time I go to record, something happens. But never mind. Oh. But I'm here today, which is great.
I think every podcaster has got stories like that of
For
plans
sure.
not coming together as anticipated. So
that definitely happened to me too. So
because I was hoping to come to this one saying, "Oh yes, I've spoke quite a lot about Father Joe on yesterday's recording," but that didn't happen. So it is a podcaster's life. Unfortunately, you've got to ride with the times and
things happen.
Fragment your world as well, because talking about an episode of I Want to Believe Minute, when you're talking about the 17th minute and jump into the 40th minute is quite difficult to do.
It's surprisingly tricky to do, I think. But I think you're approaching it in the right way, which is that you've rocked up for today's recording with a very fetching green I Am Groot t-shirt. So,
yeah, in the style of Bart Simpson as well.
Like he's writing
nice.
on the blackboard.
He's writing on the blackboard.
We appreciate a good Simpsons reference.
Great stuff. Well, before we get properly into this minute, just a quick reminder to follow us on social media. And if you're enjoying the show, please do drop us a quick rating and review on Apple Podcasts. And don't forget that you can subscribe to our Patreon, patreon.com/thexcast, for early releases of episodes and things like that. Okay, so what do we make of this minute, guys? I suppose it's quite a close quarters, intense minute, isn't it? With this woman who's in that, what would you call it, like a box or a cage? I'm going to say box, I think.
Yeah, it's on like a crate, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it's movable. It moves towards the end of the scene. So I like this minute. I think as a piece, the direction's quite good. I like the way that it's not on a dolly as such, because it feels like quite a natural movement across, where you get the dogs and then you get to her. So it feels quite cinematic and a nice little action shot that kind of refers to the dogs as, being the test subjects and her being included in that. And I think that works quite effectively.
Yeah, it really takes away from her humanity, right? And kind of really informs you how little they consider her to be a human. That they're just going to put her in a box and treat her just the same as these dogs. So, yeah.
Do you think, Sarah, that this scene sort of puts you up close and personal with her effectively? Do we feel like we're going through this in the same way that she is, kind of thing? Do you think?
Yeah, and that's one of the things that we talked about in my minute with Cathy and Cortlan when she gets out of he gets her in the car and then he abducts her, and you have that wide shot, which is pretty chilling and horrific, and you don't really see what's going on in close quarters from her perspective. So now we get her perspective here, and it's really scary because, I don't like small, tight spaces, and I know a lot of people are claustrophobic, so it does evoke that really claustrophobic kind of feel, and you're not able to see. I like the perspective through that little slot. Yeah. I like the camera shots where you get those glimpses of different things that are going on, and you kind of piece it together with the woman in the box, and it's pretty horrific. That's, one of the things that Chris Carter commented on the commentary was that the shot with the needle was, he just got lucky because they were doing everything, and the actor stepped in the right spot and did it exactly. He wasn't really planning it to be that way, but it turned out really well. So
yeah, I think it's well made. It's very intense, and yeah, I like the way that it's not entirely from her point of view in the sense it's not a POV shot, but we hear the fragments of Russian. We just see that sort of aperture, of the guys looking in, and they're quick shots, so we don't really know what's going on. We see bits and pieces, don't we, like the medical bay, but we don't have a full idea of what's happening. And I think another thing Carter said is that he liked the idea of actually doing this scene entirely from inside the box. It didn't quite work out that way, because sometimes we come out to look in at her. But even so, I don't think it takes away from the sense of, the horror of the situation, I suppose.
No, I think it's quite good. Like you're saying, it's more of a third-person perspective when we're inside the box, so we as an audience are with her and just feeling what she's feeling rather than being like a first-person perspective. I also think there's a slight Dutch angle on it because the slit is not exactly level, so there is a slight off-kilterness to the way that it's done. And I think by coming out of that box and looking within, it kind of gives you that juxtaposition of what is actually happening, and it still doesn't showcase the room as such. So the fact that they're kind of still hiding things from you, I think works really effectively.
Yeah, I think so. One thing I noted that Carter had talked about is that he thinks the dog work in this movie is fantastic, although he did point out that, I don't know if you clocked this, Kurt, on your watch, but there's a camera move that, you see the dogs, it goes across to her, but it's like the dogs haven't really reacted to the director saying cut. They're not really doing much. I think they've thrown in a bit of sound there to sort of sell it, but the dogs are just kind of idly sitting by, Well,
there's definitely a dog that's missing, and just need to put an "et" at the end, and that would be nice if Doggett was around, but we'll just have to stick with the dogs.
That's actually potentially an interesting tangent to explore, is that in 2008, were we wanting to see a few more cameos, Sarah, in the movie, whether it's Doggett or Reyes, or obviously we get Skinner later in the film, but it's not a film. There are lots of little cameos of actors and things from Vancouver, and Vanessa Morley pops up in the FBI corridor and things like that, but not big fan servicey cameos in this movie. Not too many, I don't think.
Yeah. No, I wasn't expecting Doggett and Reyes, because that was my season 9 rewatch. So I really hadn't thought about them much at all at that point. So yeah, I was just happy to finally see Skinner when he finally showed up. But
yeah. I mean, I think the obvious thing would be we could have it in a Amanda Peterson exhibits role, but I don't think that would have worked because why would they call somebody if they've been on the X-Files for so long? Why would you get Mulder and Scully back? Because that's undermining their qualities. You couldn't have them that way. The X-Files are closed down anyway, so they are kind of out of the loop. So you'd have to physically write a cameo in a way that they might go to them for help in some way, but it'd be difficult to bring someone like that back, unfortunately, with just the way it fell and the concept that they brought back with the way that Mulder and Scully are now.
What do you think Doggett and Reyes are up to at this point?
Well, Reyes, is she in the clutches of the cigarette smoking man after the truth? I think she is, isn't she? We find out in My Struggle
already?
2. Well, she goes to see him in the hospital, doesn't she, in that flashback in My Struggle 2. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. Is that right, Kurt? You're on mythology.
Yeah,
You've
it's
got
she goes to see the missile man. Yeah, because that's smoking. That's a big cigarette to take on board. Is the missile? Yeah. So she's like sort of working that out. So you can only assume that Doggett maybe had a falling out. I don't know, but yeah, I think that might be a bit fractured. But yeah, unfortunately, Reyes is on the dark side. She's taken the Deana stuff away, and it's not good. It's not good at all.
That makes me sad. I don't want to think about it.
I'm sorry.
Well,
I'm sorry I asked.
That's okay. Would you rather think about the actor playing the second abductor, I think is called Callum Keith Rennie?
Yes,
Like, do
Callum
you
Keith
guys
Rennie,
know... Say again, sorry?
Yes, I do. It was I was going to say Callum Keith Rennie, yeah.
My question was going to be, like, he's fairly well known for one or two roles, isn't he? But are we aware of them? So, Kurt, do you want to tell us about him?
Well, yeah, I mean, I through proxy know a lot about Callum Keith Rennie because my other half sister loved him. So it was like when he came on screen, I was like, oh, Callum Keith Rennie is going to be in this thing. And I know that David Duchovny's friends with him and stuff. He's been in Battlestar Galactica. That's one of the shows that I definitely remember him. And he was in Californication as well. So he's done a few bits like that. And he's one of those character actors that just generally pops up in different things. So he's very much like a working man's actor, really. And whenever I've seen him, I'm not quite sure what. I'd have to have a quick look, but I'm not quite sure what TV shows that Zoe, that my sister-in-law kind of thing, loved him on. But I was completely aware of him. It was like when it was on screen, it was like, oh, Callum Keith Rennie is going to be on the X-Files. So that is definitely something that I was aware of. Yeah.
What about you, Sarah? Are you particularly aware of him? Did you recognise him?
I think I kind of had that moment where I was like, oh, that guy seems familiar, but I didn't know who he was or anything. So just one of those familiar character actor faces where it's like, oh, that guy.
Apparently, Due South was one of his first big roles.
That was the one that she was obsessed with. So yeah, it was Due South. Yeah, he's going to be in Star Trek Discovery. Season 5 of Star Trek Discovery as well as a captain, I think. So he's been in that. He was in Jessica Jones as well, which is a great show.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. Mm-hmm.
And he's actually from your neck of the woods, Kurt. He's born in Sunderland, up in the northeast. You're our northeast England correspondent, aren't you? No, I'm just kidding.
I'm northwest. I am only an hour from northeast, but yeah, okay, I'll take that.
Lots of people, for some reason, assume you're like a Geordie or something. It's quite a funny running joke.
I mean, Ridley Scott's from up my area as well, so that's fine.
Both of the Scott brothers, presumably.
Yeah.
Tony Scott as well.
Tony and Ridley, yeah. And on complete diversion, Crimson Tide by Tony is one of my favourite films. So
I think I'm more of a Ridley guy than a Tony guy, to be fair. But Tony Scott did make a film about a runaway train. I think it was called Unstoppable with Denzel Washington. That was a pretty good action movie, to be fair.
Was that the one with Chris Pine?
It was, yeah. Denzel Washington was like the grizzled veteran of the train tracks, and he was like the younger guy who just coming on to work with him.
So good.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It was a fun one.
The only other note I have about this minute is that Frank Spotnitz said that what the actress Nikki Acox is doing here was actually, it's very hard to do. It's an exhausting type of acting. And we might talk a little bit more about her in the next minute, but I can very much believe that it's very physical, that you're sort of hollering the whole time and you're on your knees potentially. And especially if you're having to do take after take after take. I imagine that is not... I'm sure there are some days when acting is a real pleasure, and I can imagine there are some days when it's much more of a grind. And I would guess that doing a scene like that is in the latter category. Do you reckon?
Yeah, and you won't be as au fait because you didn't watch any of the trailers until 2023. But the scene where she screams at the end is actually part of one of the trailers. So it is a kind of a pivotal, like, memorable moment for like seeing the trailer several times over and over again to go, actually, this is the scene where that comes from.
Like the emotional headspace you need to be in to get to that place. And, acting is physical and emotional and mental and all of that. So I would imagine having to go to that headspace for that long, and, that's gotta be taxing for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get the sense that Chris Carter is one of those people who asks for like 50 takes or a particular scene, but I would imagine he would have wanted to do a few at least. Mm-hmm. So I can imagine it is true what Spotness is saying, but it's kind of an exhausting way to work, for sure. I don't have anything else on this particular minute, guys, so unless either of you do, we could adjourn here and pick it up again for minute 41. What do you say?
Let's go. Let's do it.
Yeah, I think there's nothing much more we can talk about there. Yeah, let's go for tomorrow's episode or the next episode, whichever way we're doing this.
Yeah.
You can see I'm not ready. You can see I'm absolutely not in my X-Files headspace at the moment. I haven't done an X-Cast for the whole of 2024. So.
Yeah.
Is it? This is your first recording of the year? Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly. I've done other things, but I'm not in my X-Files headspace at the moment. So.
Don't worry, the rust will be off by the time we get to minute 41, I'm sure, which is what we're going to be back to do tomorrow. So thanks for listening, everybody. We'll be back soon. And until then, listeners, always remember, trust no one.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather, now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply.